All right, I want to welcome everybody to our second live session for week 3 for DES 242 logo and identity design. I kind of have an interesting thing that I think I'm going to do tonight. Our agenda was to start the logos tonight. That's what I originally had on my agenda because I thought my slides from yesterday were going to take the whole class. So I was able to really get in there and start working on the logo in Illustrator, my personal brand, last night. So what I was thinking is tonight, going over some ways of doing things in Illustrator, just some tips and tricks that I might have, and some more advanced techniques that you can use, things of that nature. So if you're trying to try out some custom drawings. Illustrator's probably, at least to me, and it might not be to other people, but to me, I think Illustrator is one of the trickier of the Adobe programs. It's probably the program that I have to work the hardest at. So I thought it might be good to just kind of do a refresher on all the different things that Illustrator can do, because that is the program that we use to create our logos. So that was kind of my thoughts on this evening. And if you have anything that you want me to show you or kind of go over, you can always let me know, and I'll try to do a little bit of a demo on that as well. So let me pop over into the course. I don't believe I have any announcements between last night and tonight, but I could be wrong. No, I did post the YouTube video from last night and the slides and the announcement. I always share my slides with you. So if you want to go back in and reread those slides, they are always in there. But I think that was the only announcement that I had from last night. I can't think of any that I need to go over either that I might be posting. I can't think of the ones in the future that might be coming right now. So I think that'll be kind of fun to kind of do a refresher on Illustrator this evening, because I know that it's kind of, again, I think it's kind of a difficult program. I think it's probably the one that is the trickiest to me. I found photo, at least in my experience, or how I feel like it goes Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, in that order of how comfortable I am in each program. Because no matter what, I mean, I feel comfortable in all of them, but you always have like a level of experience. Like I feel like I can do almost anything in Photoshop these days because I had to do such complex projects at my last full-time design job before I started teaching. So I feel really, tell me to do anything in Photoshop and I can probably get it done for you. And then InDesign, I've been doing page layout for years, but I really only use Illustrator to do custom illustrations or to do logos. So I'm not in Illustrator every single day. So, I think it's kind of how often that you use those programs, how fluent you are in them. So anyways, my telephone hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and you can always email me outside of that time. I do want to let people know that if you did not take the quiz for the assessment last week, you will have a message from me, so please be checking your email or your messages in the course pertaining to that quiz. Also, all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday at midnight for full credit. Remember, you need to communicate with me regarding late work, and that will end up saving you those missed points. Week 4's assignment cannot be turned in late, and your original discussion post is due Wednesday by midnight, and you need to respond to 2 of your fellow students by Saturday, and late discussion posts will not be accepted past the Saturday deadline for the week. Also, if you are looking to resubmit any of your any of your assignments or assessments that you've already submitted, you have until Tuesday of next week, Tuesday at midnight, to do those resubmissions. That's the cutoff. Due to the Thanksgiving holiday and the course closing out. Also next week, which is Thanksgiving and week 4, I will be taking Thursday for Thanksgiving and the Friday afterwards off. It's not very often that I take a day off. So please make sure that you're trying to get in touch with me earlier in the week if you have any questions. I want to make sure I let everyone know as much ahead of schedule as I could. I'm not going to be in town. I'll be out and about visiting all sides of the family for the holidays. So we won't even be home. I'm sure a lot of you will as well. So please make sure you're managing your time next week due to the holiday, because the course is still going to close Saturday at midnight. So, try to get your stuff done if you can, before Thursday. So that way you can take some time on Thursday and Friday and kind of breathe a sigh of relief going into the weekend. So live sessions are Monday and Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. This gives you ample time during the week to get those assignments done. If you need any outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available and no appointment is necessary. And as far as tonight's schedule, I may need to end the class a little bit early or take a 5 to 10 minute break at kind of an odd time. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. It kind of depends on where we're at when that time comes. It'll probably be around 7:30, 7:40-ish. So I just wanted to kind of let everyone know and make everyone aware that I might need to cut out a little bit early tonight. But if we're really in the middle of something, I'll just take a break and I will come back to finish what it is that we're working on, if we're working for a problem together. So our assignment this week, we had to ask ourselves, some pretty interesting questions to kind of get to the root of who we are as a designer and why we want to be designers. And these questions are really important when you are, trying to put together your personal brand and your personal logo. It's these are questions you would always ask your client questions when you go in to either rebrand them or come up with an original logo concept for them. You have a set of questions that you're going to ask them to kind of get to the root of what it is that they're looking for. So you really have to ask yourself questions as well to do the same exact thing. So I think the first question is really, the most important. Why am I a designer? Why did I go into this profession? Why do I believe design is important? What is the thing that makes me weird? A lot of people would probably say there's a lot of things that make me weird, but I'm not going to get into all of them this evening. Why would someone hire me over the guy down the street? So these are the questions that I need to ask myself in order to brand myself. So why am I a designer? I'm a designer because I want to solve problems. I feel that graphic design is the ultimate in problem solving. When I was in high school, I was lucky enough to be able to take graphic design my senior year at my school that they offered it. This was back in 1997 or 96 to 97. And I used Photoshop. I believe it was Photoshop 2.0. It was black and white. I can actually show you. What it looked like. It was very extremely basic. It pretty much looked like this. You had a couple of, that might not even be 2.0. That's probably like 3.0. That looks like way more options than we had. It was so basic. But it was so cool at the same time. You got to, oh, here, this is what it looked like. Just a blank page You had a couple of marquee tools, a type tool. You did have a crop tool and a hand tool. You had the paint bucket to fill things in. I don't even know if they still, I think we still have the paint bucket. The eyedropper, a pencil, a spray brush tool, which was pretty ridiculous, a brush tool. You could smudge things with your finger, and then you could actually clone things, which is pretty advanced. That's a pretty advanced tool, honestly, for Photoshop 2.0. And you could, oh, I'm drawing a total blank here. Lighten and darken. I can't think of the correct word, but that's what got me started as a designer, and why I wanted to go into graphic design was I went to computer class senior year, and we had a teacher who thought it was important to teach all of us Adobe Photoshop because he had it available on the Macintoshes there, and he was really into it. And we were, you know, a couple of people were like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like this. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. I could create all of these designs. I could recreate things. I could possibly, you know, mock things up like I saw in magazines. I used to take ads out of magazines and put them on well-designed ads in high school and put them on my walls the same way that people put up posters for, you know, bands that they liked. I put up advertisements that I liked, that I thought had great fonts and that I thought had a great layout, because I was so into design and page layout. And I know that's probably one of the things that makes me a little bit weird. And my favorite of all advertisements were, that I had every single one of, were the Absolute Vodka advertisements. And you've probably seen them. I thought that these were so clever. Each one was different, and it involved the bottle in a different way. The ones from the 90s were pretty cool. I remember the orange one where, oh, this one, I was gonna say, where it was the orange peel was the bottle. And I was like, that is so awesome. How did they do that? And somebody said, oh, they did that, you know, with Adobe Photoshop. And right there, I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to do page layout. I was like, someday I want to design Absolute Vodka ads. And, you know, my mom was at first a little bit concerned that her daughter had all of these vodka ads up on the wall. And once I started talking about them and the layout of them and the way that, you know, it was designed and how they use Photoshop to create the bottle out of other objects that, you know, showed it, like, she was immediately like, okay, as long as you're not sitting in your room drinking vodka and you know, we don't have to have that problem. You're just a little bit, that's a little odd and a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but all right. So, you know, that's why I am a designer. Those are all the things that kind of took place in my life that led me to seek out a college, to go to college for graphic design, and to, you know, get my first job at a newspaper doing ad layout, and then, you know, all of the subsequent jobs that have come after it. And it's also why I teach graphic design, because I have such a passion for graphic design, for being able to solve those problems that are out there, that I definitely want to share all of the little things that I've learned, you know, in the last 20 years along the way. So why do I believe that design is important? I really think that great design can change the world. I really do. You know, when you stop and think about iconic images and iconic illustrations that are out there, you know, think of the Hope poster from when Obama was running for president. And somebody, Shepard Fairley, that's his name, had created the Hope poster, and people had copies of this poster, and it was, you know, it was definitely a symbol of, you know, him running for office. And I think that that had a lot to do with how people felt about him as a candidate and getting the movement going and things like that. So think about how design can change things. You know, think of different ads that you may see, iconic ads. The Volkswagen ad for the Bug back in the 1960s, where they called the car a lemon right on the ad, and people were like, "Wait, what?" And until you read the ad, but it drew people in, and it kind of changed the way, you know, people designed and the way people interacted. You know, marketed their product, and had people interact with their advertisements. I really think that great graphic design can change our perception of things and can possibly then change the world. So what's that thing that makes me weird? Well, other than putting up all the vodka ads on my wall of my bedroom, you know, I can put together a layout in my head. If you give me an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with typed out ad copy, and you tell me it needs to go into a space that's 8 inches by 3 inches, I can put that all together in my head. I can see the different blocks of text and realize where they need to go, and I can lay it out in my head in probably under 3 minutes. That's just how my brain works. It puts things together like a puzzle. So that's kind of a weird thing. Why would someone hire me? Well, I think that I believe in clean design solutions. So I believe in a grid. I believe in making sure that, you know, the points you want to stand out and get across are standing out and they're getting across. So, you know, I think that that's why somebody would choose to hire me. I think that I have a good body of work that I can show them. I think I have a good work ethic. You know, I believe in deadlines. I believe in making sure that I meet those deadlines. If I give a deadline to a client and I say, I will have this work to you by this day, I don't just throw out willy-nilly deadlines. I make sure that I adhere to those deadlines. Graphic design is an extremely deadline-oriented business. If your customer tells you, you need to have your files in Friday at midnight or this cannot get on the press, if you send it to them Saturday morning, it won't get on the press. I can guarantee you. Everything in graphic design, because it has to go through so many different kind of processes before it gets out there. You know, it has to get to the proofreaders and they need to look it over. It needs to go to the client and be approved. It needs to come back from the client, have the changes done by you, and then go back out to the client. It needs to get to a printer. The printer needs to run it through the machines, you know, lay everything out in pre-press, get it on there. Then it needs to go to the cutter. And this is just print design. You know, then it might need to get folded. Then it might need to get mailed out. Everything has a deadline. So that's why it's so important in these classes, when you see that your work is due on a specific date, that you are getting that work in on time, because you are training yourself to adhere to the same deadline that you are going to have out there in the real world. Because if you miss a deadline in the real world, there are real world repercussions about that. You know, I've seen people get fired because they miss their deadlines. So it is extremely important. And I believe in a deadline. I believe in meeting deadlines. I believe in putting out the best work I can, no matter how small or how big a job it is. That's how I design. And I think that makes me a candidate that someone would want to hire. So, you know, those are the things that I need to think of when I'm putting together my, you know, my brand, myself as a brand. And these are the different things that are available, you know, I have a Behance page just like you guys, you know, and I have my work up there the same as you. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things, like for better or for worse, it's out there, and I let people see it, and I let people make a decision on whether or not they want to hire me based on looking at my portfolio. You know, and I need to market myself, and I need to market my own brand. So that means, you know, when I do a write-up about myself, I make sure that my entire write-up is grammatically correct. I have correct spelling. Whenever I communicate with a client, I make sure that I am communicating in an extremely professional manner. It doesn't matter if they've annoyed me or something else, you know, at the end of the day, they're the client. And if I want to keep that job, I need to be professional at all times. And I think that, you know, having that level of professionalism is extremely important in this profession, because I also feel that a lot of times, we tend to get very comfortable, and we can tend to get very buddy-buddy, because we're kind of a laid-back group of people. We're really artistic. You know, we tend to dress in jeans and t-shirts, you know, and but at the end of the day, we need to be professional with our employers, with our clients, with potential clients. I mean, there have been situations where I've gone out to dinner with clients, with other business partners, and I've had to remind them, you know, midway through the dinner, you can have one glass of wine. I don't care how much the client drinks, but you are not going to sit here during a business meeting and get drunk along with them. That is not professional. So, I mean, you know, these are the things that, you know, so you want to be professional in your online persona, and you also want to be professional when you're out there dealing with them in the real world. So, you know, that's the kind of designer I am. And these are all of the things that I want to roll into my brand. I want to make sure that, you know, potential clients understand about me. All right, so let's hop over into Illustrator. Enough about me. Let's hop back over into Illustrator. So last night I was kind of designing a couple of ideas, a couple of sketches for my personal brand. And I was doing, you know, some offset paths. I was kind of using a little bit of the pen tool. I've used the Pathfinder tool in the past, but I haven't really gone over and done a refresher on each of these tools. So I thought that tonight might be a good idea to do something like that. So I'm going to close out these two things. And I'll just make myself a new document. Just going to do one artboard this time. And one of the things that I always like to have is I like to have my rulers on in Illustrator, so I can snap down a grid really easy. So you can go to view rulers and turn them on, show rulers, or you can use Command R. I'm a big fan of quick keys, I will say, and I try to make sure that I'm not using them too often, because I know that not everybody knows all of the quick keys. But I will give you a hint. If you hover, or at least used to be able to, it used to be if you hovered over the different, oh, they took that option away? That was like one of the best options. Really? That's a bummer. Oh, sometimes it shows them. Yeah, it used to be if you hovered over the tool, it told you what the quick key was. V is always in Adobe the black arrow, and A is always the white arrow. Those two I will let you know. And then the rest of them are kind of easy to figure out. Like W is for the magic wand, W for wand. The pen tool is P. The type tool is T. The marquee tool is M. And I believe the circle marquee tool is L, yes. I don't use the line tool very often, or the arc tool, or because I draw things with the pen tool. Some people really like the arc tool. I don't even know if I've ever I mean, that's great. If you need to get a very specific arc, I mean, that's great that that'll do that for you. But I prefer to use the pen tool. And I think it's because I've really worked at the pen tool over the years, trying to get really good at it. Eyedropper tool is I. Gradient mesh tool, I think out of all of the tools in Illustrator, me and the gradient mesh tool do not get along. Whenever I need to do a gradient mesh, it's like, you know how there's always that one thing that you're like, no matter how many times I try to do this, it never comes out right. It's the gradient mesh for me. Every time I have to do a gradient mesh, I ask my husband to come down. I'm like, I need a gradient mesh. And he laughs and he's like, one of these days, he's like, I'm going to get you to figure this tool out. But me and the gradient mesh tool, we just don't get along. I end up making a mess of it every single time. I mean, I will try every time, but I do make a mess of it. Then we have, the artboard tool, which is new and weird to me because I always go up to file, document setup, but there is an artboard tool, which is good. The slice tool, I never use, I'm not gonna lie. And the hand tool, but I just use the space bar. And zoom. Zoom is good for zooming in. And then we've got, forget what this thing is. The lasso tool, which is a little bit weird to me because to me that's a Photoshop tool. And we have the eraser tool, which I never use, the scissor tool, which I never use, and the knife tool, which I never use. There's just some tools that you're just never going to use, and these are them. I find that they're kind of like those newer tools with warp, twirl, pucker, and blow. I'm just not a fan of doing those type of options, but you know, it is what it is. So let's say that you really want to put an image with your logo, like you want to have an icon or something, and you want to have maybe it's a puppy, maybe it's a dog that you want to have, and it's your dog. You want a picture of your dog to go with your logo, a really simplistic version of your dog. So let's do something like that. Let me find a picture of my dog. I know I have one somewhere. Hold on one second. It'll just take me a moment to grab him. And unfortunately for my poor dog, we had a baby. So that means that, the 8 million pictures a day that I used to take of the dog are now 8 million pictures a day that I take of the child instead. Which I'm sure any of you who have had kids are probably like, oh yeah. And the dog's like, hey, I still exist. Let me see if I can find a picture of him where he's not doing something weird in it. He's not very photogenic, this dog. I'm not gonna lie. He you take out the camera and he makes like the world's weirdest face. I'm like, you were just doing something cute like 2 seconds ago. Why do you have to be such a weirdo? Let me see this one. That's a good one. All right. Just for fun. All right, and here we go. So there he is, Mr. Gohan, which you all know from my announcement. I have a picture of him sitting on the couch, which is pretty much what he does on a day-to-day basis. So you might be saying to yourself, all right, but this is really, really detailed. I mean, this is a logo. I can't do anything this detailed. And you're right, you can't. You can't do anything this detailed. But we can use the pen tool and we can kind of draw, a silhouette of our dog. and incorporate that into our logo. And the best tool for doing that is definitely the pen tool. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm gonna lock this on its own layer. I find that I don't tend to use layers a lot in Illustrator. I use layers a lot in Photoshop, and I know I should use them more in Illustrator and in design. I'm just not. I don't know. Something about layers just yells Photoshop to me. All right, so I've got him on his own layer. So this is going to be my illustration layer. And I'm going to get out my pen tool and probably hide zoom. There we go. All right, it zooms all over my whole page. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to follow the contour of him. And what I like to do is, especially if there's a picture with a lot of color, I don't tend to leave the border, which is the default, on black because I can't see it. So I'll usually use like a really obnoxious pink color and just kind of put the stroke up to like maybe 2. So I'm going to start with my first dot. I'm going to click and drag. And then find my next point, click and drag. And then if I need to move, let me zoom in. This line right here, this point, I hold down Option, or whoops, or Command, sorry about that, Command. Sometimes I just do it and then I'm like, wait a minute, I need to say what the key is. And I can just kind of pull, oh no, it is Option, what the heck? It's showing me something else. And move that up a little. Pull that one out so I can get that right. And then I'm going to start off again. Next one, click and drag. And as I'm pulling my line, that's what's making those nice curves. So if you've ever had a hard time making those curves, it's what you need to do is, you know, put down the point and then start, don't let up, don't unclick, and start to pull and just practice a little bit making those lines, because you really want nice curves in your lines. You don't want to go click, 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 click. And you want the least amount of points possible in your lines, because the more points you have, it's just, when it becomes bigger, it becomes really, it gets a little bit crazy and it's not going to look correct. So click and drag. And again, I can move this line out by holding that Option. And this must have been a good day for Mr. Gohan. Just laying around in the dirt. Probably had to take a bath after this, which is his least favorite thing to do. And then sometimes I like to pull the line out a little bit. So it ended right here, but I know I want my line to go this way. So I'm going to hold down that Option key and pull that line down first. And there we go. And holding down Option, pull that up. And holding down Option, pull that line over. Zoom out a little. And I can probably get away with, there's a curve right there. Let's see. See if I can get all the way down to his ankle. And my point go. There we go. And almost done. Apparently he needed his nails cut on this day as well. They look mighty long in this photo. Poor guy. And his tail seems to curve around right here. So I'm going to have to take out this area inside of here, which is be a kind of good segue into the, hold on. Let's do this. Into the Pathfinder tool. And I'll just go around his leash. Kind of figure out the natural curve. So I've got him. I just got to get this little area. All right, so I'm just going to make this a different color so that way I can see when I need to do the Pathfinder, and I'm going to close up this area. So I've got this, it's kind of funny because he's definitely laying down being lazy, but he almost looks like he's jumping, like he's a jumping dog, which he's definitely not. So it's kind of funny. I can turn off that layer so you can see. So I'm going to use now the Pathfinder tool because I want to cut out this area. I don't want to just make it white. And the reason why is if I make it white and it looks like it's cut out, so you may be saying to yourself, well, that's fine. What if this logo is now placed on a background? See, it's going to show up white. So I need to use that Pathfinder tool to literally cut out this section from this section. So let me grab that. Probably have it open, but just in case. There it is. All right. So I'm going to select the part that I'm going to cut out, and then I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select the part that I'm cutting it out from. And I want to do, I believe it's this option, the second one over. And you can double check that it has worked by turning on that back layer again. So now that white is gone. So you can see where it's been cut out. Hey, Sean. Glad you're able to make it.
Good evening.
We're doing tonight, we're going over some Photoshop, some Illustrator tips and tricks. So I was just doing a demo with the pen tool, and I just showed the Pathfinder tool. So that's so if there's anything that you wanted to see that you're like, hey, I need a little bit of help with that tool.
There may be. I know I like the Command 7 tool where you can like merge layers together.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I started experimenting with the Pathfinder myself.
Nice.
I think I'm getting it, or at least things are starting to look really interesting now.
Isn't that the fun way, though, is when things start to look interesting, you're like, it wasn't exactly what I was going for, but I kind of like it.
I kind of well, Coca-Cola has this, I don't know if it's a contest or just a promotion where they're letting people actually change their logo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I actually put a submission together.
Oh, that's awesome.
I put it on my Behance site. So I got a chance to use the Pathfinder tool to kind of merge something really interesting.
Oh, nice.
I submitted it and they took it.
Nice. No, that sounds awesome. That sounds like fun.
Actually, it was. I was like, I'll show it before we end.
Oh, nice. Yeah. If I mean, the discussion's a great place to put your work. I making another discussion post and just saying, hey, if anybody wants to check out, I've been working on this. I'd love some feedback. I always tell my students, if you want to kind of get together in the discussion and talk about, as long as you've done your main post, and then talk about another topic and kind of have a thread going with each other, I say use the discussion that way. It kind of stinks, when you're going to school online, you don't have somebody that you can just go up to them in class and say, hey, do you mind taking a look at this for a second?
Right.
So it's kind of the equivalent of being able to do that.
Correct.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds like fun. Yeah, so, all right, so we've kind of gone over the pen tool. So you can see if I turn to outlines, you can see I don't have a ton of points here. There was a couple of areas where I had to add a couple in, but this is basically the correct amount of points that you should have for an illustration like this. And what I meant about too many points is when you go like, instead of doing those curves, you try to just add a whole bunch of points in, and you don't get that nice curved line. So once you start to zoom in, you can see all the jagged edges, and you don't want those jagged edges. That's why you want to click and pull. Click and pull to get that nice curve. It's just easier on the eye. And if illustration is not your strong suit, you don't have to illustrate something in a logo. Your logo can definitely be a word mark logo. You're not going to lose points for having a word mark logo, as long as it displays an element of design with your text. That's what I'm looking for. If you just type your name and nothing else, that what's the difference between that and putting it on a piece of paper, basically? But or just typing it on a page. But as long as you show an element of design and that there's some thought going into this whole process, that's fine. You don't have to illustrate something. Believe me, for years illustrating was not my strong suit. I don't think it's still my strong suit. I don't think it's the best thing that I'm good at all. All right, so let's say that I want to name this company Lazy Dog Designs, because even though he kind of looks jumping, he's laying there. So I want to name this Lazy Dog Designs, and maybe I want my text to go in a circle. Putting text on a path is one of those things that people can tend to have a little bit of difficulty with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab that ellipsis tool, and I'm going to turn it to the border again, and I'm going to make him all black right now. Whoops. No outline. There we go. Ellipsis tool. And again, I'm going to give it that crazy magenta color just so it kind of differentiates it. And I'm going to hold down Shift because I want to have a nice proportional circle. So I'm going to hold down Shift. And maybe I'll just move it a little bit over here so it starts and runs. Well, we'll see. So the next thing I need to do is I need to grab the text tool. I need to grab my type on a path tool. So hold down at the T, get my type on a path tool, and I'm gonna click at the right on the line of the circle. That's why I always put it on the border, so that way I can see that line a little bit better. And it's going to, that's it. How to get rid of lorem ipsum in Illustrator. This is clearly well Googled. I know somebody must, I cannot work like this. Neither can I. All right, fill new type objects with placeholder text. Thank you for the person who asked that. Preferences, type, fill new type objects with placeholder text. Look, we're all learning something today. So if you go to your Illustrator preferences, go down to the type option, unclick that last one and hit OK. And I'm just going to delete that lorem ipsum. Oh, I feel better already.
Say that again.
You go to Illustrator, the word Illustrator up in your taskbar, preferences, and then go to the type preference, and it's the last option, fill new type objects with placeholder text. I do not know why they did this. Oh, the world's most annoying option. I just love that this guy said, I just updated Illustrator and I made a new text box and it auto fills with lorem ipsum. Is this an error? Is this default? Something I could turn off? I cannot work like this. Neither can I. Neither can I. All right. So that guy's my hero for going and asking that question. All right. So I'm going to call this Lazy Dog Designs, but I'm going to put design somewhere else. So I'm just going to put Lazy Dog first. I'll change my font later. But you'll notice it's kind of starting it right here. So what I need to do is to move my text within this path. I go to the black arrow key, and at this point, open up my options, my paragraph options, paragraph styles. Hold on, window, type, paragraph. There we go. All right. It's left justified. So my text is running right up against this left line right here, and it can run all the way around the circle till it hits this line. Right. Oh, you got it. So if I was to center the text, you'll see that it centers now within these two bounding areas, and then you can move this line right here that's in the center, and it gets a little bit annoying because it kind of jumps all over the screen. That's one of the things that I don't like about it. So I'm gonna do it left justified and change it to pink so I can see what I'm doing here. There we go. And start to drag, there we go, this around. And if you flip the line if you pull it to the inside of the circle, it puts it on the inside of the circle. If you pull the line to the outside of the circle, it puts it on the outside of the circle. So it's very, very finicky. So you want to just kind of gotta be really careful with almost your hand placement and even the pressure that you're putting on that tool right there. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see how close those lines get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to drag one of those lines away from itself. See how it's moving this line at the same time? This is that center of your circle. So let's say no matter what, I don't want the text to go past Gohan's butt right here, basically. I can move the end of the text line right here, and then I can keep moving the left barrier till I get it where I want. Or if I know that, all right, I want this text to be centered within, starting at Gohan's head and ending at his bum. I can then center it, and it's going to center it between those two areas. So that's kind of how you use that type on the path tool. It's a little bit of a weird tool when you start to work with it, and it can get really annoying, I find, you know, if the first couple of times you use it, because it's so like I said, it's so pressure sensitive. So let's say that, all right, end at his head, start at his head, end at his butt. There we go. So I've got lazy dog. So maybe I want to do something like this, space it out a little, change my font to something fun. Oh, get rid of that, all classes. That is unreadable. That's unreadable. That could be fun. Let me. So I've got lazy dog, and then maybe I do design through the center or something like that. Or I can even say, you know what? Maybe I want to move everything in. Maybe I want lazy to be on one side of Gohan, and I want dog to be on the other side. So again, I'm gonna probably turn it back to left justified. Add a couple more spaces in, maybe do something like this, lazy dog, and then have design run through him. And again, I can use kind of, remember how we used that offset path tool yesterday. So in my same, my same font, I'm going to do design. And I'm going to color it just a quick, quick color, just so that way I can see what I'm doing. And maybe I want it to look as though it's completing this circle, wherever that circle may be. Oh, it looks like it did. All right, so I want this to not be, I want it to be a cutout now. Design where it cuts through Gohan. So this is where using that, the Pathfinder tool is going to come into play. So I'm going to turn my font to outlines. So you can do that under type, create outlines, or Command-Shift-O. And really all text, when you've made your design decision, like you're like, all right, this is definitely the font I'm going to use. You always in a logo need to turn the font to outlines, because let's say I open up your logo on my machine and I don't have the font sneakers script on my machine. What it's going to do is, if you don't have your fonts turned to outline, it's going to default to Myriad Pro, which is clearly not how you, and it will look like this if we do Myriad Pro. It'll look like this when I open it, and I'll say, I'm pretty sure that they didn't design their logo that way. That looks kind of weird. So you always want to turn those fonts to outlines before you submit anything for especially for a logo. All right, so I turned my font for design to outlines, and I'm gonna go up into Object, Path, Offset Path, and I'm gonna turn on Preview because it kind of gives me, which you might not be able to see, it's giving me like a red outline showing where that offset path is gonna be, but I want it to be a little bit bigger. No, not that big. Maybe that big. And I'm going to need to adjust right here where that weird spike is coming down. So I'm going to say okay to that one. And I'm going to make it white just so I can see the difference. And I'm going to turn outlines on, and I'm going to use my white selection tool. And I just want to, I'm going to drag and select just this point and move it up here. So you can see it kind of fixes that shape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, select the red letter. So I'm going to use the white selection tool again, and I'm going to go up into select, same fill color. And I want to bring these to the front. Arrange, object arrange, bring to front. There we go. And I'm going to use the white letters, or the white background letters. Oh. Ungroup it, there we go. Ungroup that, find each of those white letters and select it. There we go. I'm going to go into my Pathfinder tool, which closed out, and I don't know where I put it. There it is. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine them. And again, this is kind of a bad thing that they got rid of too, is you used to be able to hover over these and it would tell you what each one did, and it doesn't do that anymore. And I don't know, they got rid of that option, which I thought was a really good option if you're starting out and just learning Illustrator and you're like, that's great, what did these shapes mean? This one means combine. This one is delete in front. This one is, I forget what it's actually called. I forget what these two are called. This is a slice one. So, I don't think that it was a great idea to get rid of that option, that hovering over the tool tells you what it is, but then to put in lorem ipsum text. So, come on, Adobe. All right, so I'm going to, with just the white in the background selected, and I had to ungroup it from the pink color, because it once you make that offset path, it automatically groups the back path with the front path. So you're going to have to do an ungroup to kind of break that apart. I'm going to combine those shapes. So now the white is all one shape, but there's two ways I can do this. I can leave it white, so when it's laying over a picture, it stands out, which isn't the worst thing, and then possibly do the same exact thing with my lazy dog, set it up the same way. Or I can use the Pathfinder tool again and cut it out from my dog. So I'm going to show you how to do the cutout from your dog. So I'm going to select just the white again, and then I'm going to select the dog. And I'm going to do this option, and it cuts it out.
I think that just answered my question.
Oh.
I was going to say, like, if you did the offset path and you go ahead and use the Pathfinder to divide it all,
yep,
would you be able to separate the outline from the actual
from like the original, right?
Yeah.
Yep, you have to ungroup it first. Yes.
Right.
All right, so I kind of like that. I think that that's coming along. Let me turn this off. It's like, and I'm just gonna colorize this. It's bothering me. So let's see. What else can I do with this? I kind of like where this is going. I'm going to turn these fonts to outlines because I want to leave this exactly how it is. So I'm going to make that an outline. And maybe I'm thinking to myself, you know, maybe is the bottom too much, like the full dog? Maybe he should just be the top of him or something. So I can kind of check out what that might be like. Let me make a copy of him. I probably should have made a copy of him before, hold on, before I cut him out. There we go. So if you're not quite sure, you know, you're like, oh, I cut him out. Oh, crap, I cut him out. Make a copy. You know, I make copies of everything. Like I make copies of my font and I leave them over here. I make copies of my images and I leave them over here just so that way, just in case, I have a copy. So I'll do the same exact thing that I just did.
I'm getting used to doing that now myself.
Oh yeah, that all it takes is you know, those couple of times where you lose something and you're like, oh no. You know? So that's why I do that now. But I've lost many an image, many an item, forgotten what I'm like, I'll never forget what that font is. And then I'm like, I don't remember what this font is, and I have to go through my whole font list. So yeah. It's for the best. All right, so let's remove his bottom for a second. So that's kind of cool. He kind of looks like he's sleeping. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I trying to think of what would make him look even lazier. Maybe I do a cutout where it looks like his eye is closed. I can do that. Oh, that would be a good use of this art tool, I guess. Hold on, let's do that. That's a little creepy. That doesn't look right. Let's try it again with the pen tool. Maybe he's lazy. Maybe he's got a smile. That's a little bit too much. That's just too much. But I feel like I can possibly. All right, I'm going to do a transform. So I'm going to do a Command T. Whoops, Command T. No. Oh, what is transform? Edit. Edit transform. Is it edit transform? No, I'm object transform. Transform. I want to scale it. I'm using Photoshop quick keys. Sorry about that. And go to 150. There we go. And I'm going to combine these two. So you'll notice when I hover, all right, so I made two segments, but I want to combine them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool. And as I hover, you can see where the end, and it kind of gives me a minus sign when I hover, and I can click on the end point there and connect it. It gives me a dot with a line going through it. I can connect this, and then I need to click off. So I usually go up into my toolbar and kind of click on my arrow tool, and then I'll click on my pen tool again, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. So once I get the minus sign, I can click and then connect it to that other point. So now this is one object right here. And maybe I'll just leave that like that. Make it the same color though. I mean, I could cut it out, but I feel like you should be able to see it without having something showing through all the time. So I don't think I'm going to cut it out. Maybe I'll make it white though. So it looks like he's sleeping with his tongue out. Looks like he's sleeping like the dead right now. Which, if you knew my dog, when he is sleeping, that's exactly how he sleeps. So, you know, not surprising in the least. And then maybe trying to think of what other tools I might use to kind of, you guys might be having some issues with. I find it's like everybody has problems kind of with the pen tool.
I've been trying to test out the image trace tool.
I don't use that. I'm not gonna lie. It kind of like traces the image for you and kind of puts the points on.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing, is I feel like that tool is okay for some things, but for a logo, you really should be much more precise and much more exact. And the only way you're going to be that precise and that exact is if you do the drawing yourself. You know, so that's definitely one of the things. Oh, and this should be lined up, that you'll want to be aware of. And so there's my Lazy Dog Design logo, which he looks lazy. The only way he could look lazier is maybe if I did a drawing of him sleeping on design this way. That could be another one. I don't know if I have a picture of him doing that. I mean, I probably do. There's probably a really good chance that, I think in the announcement, isn't he sleeping that way? I should look. He is the world's laziest dog. If I was going to name a company after him, I probably would name it Lazy Dog Design. Where's my welcome announcement? All right, maybe that'll work. Hold on, let's copy that image. And I can kind of show a couple of things with the pen tool again. So I'm gonna group these ones and just, oops, move him over and paste Lazy Dog. Whoops, I'm gonna put him on his own layer. And scale him down until he's kind of where I want him to be. Oh, that might work well. Let's see if I can maybe rotate him a little. He's probably upstairs right now like, hey, why are you telling everybody I'm so lazy? People were like, what kind of a dog is he? And I'm like, he's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. They're like, oh, they're kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, he's totally nuts. Look at him. He might get off the couch if you give him food. All right, that's good. Go back and lock that layer. Go back into this layer. And again, I'll use my pen tool. So I'm going to follow the contour of him, which is going to be a little bit more difficult because he's laying on my Boston Red Sox blanket. This time I'm going to use white, actually. I'll probably be able to see a little bit better with a white border. All right, so I'm going to start here with his ear. I like to start somewhere where I can end on that corner when I come back around, where it's not going to, like, I don't have to end on a curve. So I tend to pick, like, a point that's kind of like where it corners to start. So that way, you know, I can kind of end on the same corner. I'm going to click and pull. And that's going to be a little bit too long. I can already tell, so holding down Option, I'm going to close that up to about here. Click and pull.
How did you shrink the line without having to like make those extra points?
What do you mean by oh, you hold down the Option key and it gives you, see how it goes from the pen tool to this cursor right here?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just, while holding down Option, you just drag that line back, and then that'll give you a shorter curve. Okay. So once you get a little bit like once you kind of get used to using the pen tool, the only way to get good at the pen tool is to just keep at it. It's one of those tools where it is, I thought it was confusing as anything when I first started. I was like, oh, the pen tool, yeah, that's great. Like, have fun with that. but now, and it was kind of funny, the way I met my husband was at my job, my design job. And one of the first conversations that we had was, I asked him, because he does really great illustrations. So I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind showing me how to use the pen tool? I've just never had to use it before. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. And he like had me over at his desk and he gave me the whole demo of using the pen tool, and 15 years later, here we are. Whoops, that's not him. That's the blanket. Where's he? I can zoom out. Where's that dog? Probably somewhere under here. There we go. And have to pretend I can tell. Oh, whoops, that is his paw. All right, hold on. And there we go. And I'm going to have to add in the rest of his little snout. He's cuddled up in the blanket. Just that curve. Pull, see, and that's what I mean about ending on that corner. And then drag that one up.
I gotta work on that drag out thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's exactly what it is. It's one of those things where it's like you just kind of gotta work on it. I'm gonna add in another line. I'm gonna cut out where his paw meets his face, I think. And cut that out. So let's do that same thing I just did. So make that line. Let me think how I want to do this. I'm going to drag this out, and then I'm going to close it up just a little bit. Click off and close that up. Click off and close that up. And I'll make this a different color so I can tell what I'm doing, although with the amount of colors on that blanket, we'll see. And close him up. Maybe I'll borrow this guy for a second. Change his color though so I can see. Oh, I'm gonna have to zoom in. There we go. And I have to rotate that. Oh, there, all right. Command T is transform. You're like, maybe I don't need that. Maybe it's, I think you can definitely tell he's lazy this time. I feel like it needs to, I'm gonna need to cut out right here too. So let's try. I'll reposition this. Yeah, that's a little bit better. A little bit of a curve there. Close out that line. All right, so I'm going to, again, I'm gonna cut this part out of the white. So I'm gonna select the red first, and then I'm gonna select the white, and I'm gonna go to my second option to cut that out. And then I'm going to need to send him to the back. Whoops. Oh, he's on a different, wait, no, he shouldn't be on a different layer. Send it to the back, there we go. And I'm gonna need to cut him out again with these ones. So I should probably make a copy first, just in case. Grab these ones. I don't need to grab the D, it's because he's completely off the D. And I'm gonna go Object, Path, Offset Path. And I'll do the 0.065 again. And this time I'll color it black. I colored it white last time. And again, I'm gonna have to fix that little, sometimes when you do an offset path, and I'll tell you why, I'm not exactly sure why this happens, but see how this font kind of has this curve that comes down like this with this point? And for some reason, when you do an offset path, it tends to exaggerate those points. So you always wanna make sure that you kind of look for and fix those rogue points that just may just like jut out and be like, Durr, and you're like, what the heck is that? Why did that happen? That's why it's a little bit weird, but you can just like kind of grab it with the white arrow tool and fix it. Okay, so grab the black letters in the back, grab my lazy dog again, do the same offset path. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, wait, it didn't get rid of it. It's the picture behind it. Whoo, losing my mind. Turn him to black, and I'll turn that layer off. And there's my other lazy dog, but I can't really tell what's going on here. I need to turn that picture back on. I'm gonna have to fix, I think I'm gonna have to do the same thing with his paws here. I think I'm gonna have to cut out this area so that way you can kind of tell it's his paws and he's sleeping, because otherwise it kind of just looked like some weird blob thing going on. So even though, you know, we're following that path, sometimes it's not always perfect and you gotta kind of go back in. So let's see, just gonna kind of make up what I'm doing here. And let's see it now. No, oh, I know how to fix this. All right, I'm gonna have to, whoops, I have to fudge the image a little. This is his back leg. We're going to just take this out all together. We're going to have this line come meet up with this line, and he'll look like he's sleeping then. All right, delete part of these lines. I want to go. That's a bad line. Might have to just start over. There, that looks like his little paw is sleeping now. So cut that out. Whoa, whoa, what was that? What was that craziness? Oh, all right, hold on. Combine. I need to combine this. Sometimes this happens. Then, nope. Oh, why are you doing that? Sometimes this will happen if you've done too many paths, Pathfinder options. It will just lose its mind and it can't figure out how to do the filter you want. That's when this option comes into play, cutting everything into segments. So that's what I'm going to do right here. And it's going to cut everything into a segment. And then I'm going to have to just go in and manually delete out each portion. And you'll want to go to outlines to make sure you don't leave any rogue points anywhere when that happens. It's because in here we already had cut it and it literally just could not tell what it was doing. All right, so there he is, my lazy dog sleeping for my lazy dog design. I think that this is probably a better version, honestly, than the other one. So I'm gonna save this lazy dog design. Kind of like it. Maybe I'll use it sometime. And again, all of my fonts have been turned to outlines. If this is what I was submitting though, I would make sure everything's black at this point. Whoops. Oh, I had a rogue line right there. So I'm gonna select all this and make it black. I can double check everything too. Make sure I don't have any random white areas left. I might even move dog a little bit closer. So I'm gonna ungroup this. Leave these grouped. Kind of bring it in. It's still, you still kind of think it's on the same path. It's just, I've visually kind of compacted my design a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty psyched with that. Save that. And again, you know, just to kind of go over the assignment one more time. Got a couple of minutes, and then you and Mr. Sean, but I said I was going to have to end a little bit early this evening, or do depending on where we were at, or do a very late break. So I'm actually going to end a little bit early. So you need to have 15 sketches, a minimum. You need to answer those 3 questions in 150 words, and then you need to refine your best logo. Do 3 of those from your 15 sketches. Remember to keep those sketches simple. You know, and like I said, remember how we looked at in the slide yesterday. I showed you those sketches. where are we? 242, week 3, 1. There we go. Where they were about 2 inches by 2 inches, the dog sketches that somebody was doing those logo concepts for, that's a really good size to kind of try to keep yourself at, so you don't get too detailed, because you know, if you are drawing at 2 inches by 2 inches, you're not going to be able to fit a lot of information into an area that big. So it almost keeps you from getting too crazy. And just make sure that you're taking a good zoomed in picture so I can see them, and that's fine. So use whatever method you need to in order to keep yourself from going overboard. I always say it seems like we all go too far when we're creating logos. I do the same thing, and I'm like, whoa, take a step back. Like I just had to do with the dog. I'm like, no, you can't put in, a closed eyelid and put some eyelashes on him, because as soon as you scale that down to a business card, it's going to get lost. But we all tend to do it. We're like, oh, wouldn't it look so cool if I just did this? And then you're like, wait a minute. It's a logo. It's not an illustration. So I do the same thing. So remember, try to keep those sketches simple, keep them meaningful to you, and don't make it so vague that the viewer can't figure it out without asking you and hearing a 20-minute story either. So it's like, think of why icons work, something along those lines. Is there any questions that I can answer before we end tonight? And you don't have to use your name. You can come up with a business. The option is really yours. Be creative this week. Is there anything else I can go over one more time tonight before I let you guys go? Is that a no? All right, I'm not sure if I might have lost you guys. All right, well, if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And again, I opened up that quiz. If you have not taken it, make sure that you go in and you take that quiz. If you've already taken it, you can only take it once. But please make sure that you are getting your work in on time this weekend. Please make sure that you're getting any late work in, and please make sure that you're doing those Make sure you're doing the design in your design class. No, make sure you get those discussion questions in as well. All right, I hope that this was a little bit helpful. If you're running into any other problems with Illustrator this week, the learning coaches are a great resource. If you just have a quick question and you want to pop over to the SSC, they can definitely help you out. All right, well, I hope everybody has a great night, and I will see you all next week. And I can't wait to see your work that you submit this weekend, because this is a really fun assignment. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody's design. All right, have a great night, everyone.
You too. Good night.
Bye.